It's now my privilege to introduce this afternoon's guest speaker. Dr. John Baird is one of Silicon Valley's top executive coaches and the author of the Wall Street Journal best-selling book, Leading with Heart. For many years, he has worked with leaders at organizations ranging from startups to Fortune 500 companies. He spent the early part of his career as a faculty member right here in the Lucas College and Graduate School of Business, where he directed the MBA program. He served as the director of the Institute for Teaching and Learning and was named the university's outstanding professor in 1989. He holds a PhD in organizational communication and leadership from Purdue University and today serves on the SJSU Tower Board. Please join me in welcoming Dr. John Baird.
It is so great to be back. And I want to start and just say congratulations to this class of 2024. Give yourselves a round of applause. And wonderful. It is so great to be back, and even though I'm not teaching as much formally, I do a lot of executive coaching. I've coached a lot of CEOs and founders of companies, and through the years, I've learned a lot about leadership as well. So as a leadership coach, I'd like to talk a little bit about something that has always been on my mind, and it's the role of kindness in building successful organizations. My theme today is really about leaving a legacy of kindness in both life and in work. It's interesting because Jim Collins wrote the classic book, Good to Great, but I was always fascinated by how he went back and looked at those great companies and looked at what they had in common with respect to the leadership. And they found two qualities, which I've always used as a sort of a bellwether benchmark for good leadership. One is humility and kindness, and the second is a fierce resolve. It's hard to be a good leader in Silicon Valley and in the world in general unless you have a fierce resolve, a purpose, a place you want to take an organization or an idea, and if that's coupled with humbleness and kindness, it's a magical combination. It's interesting because when Jacinda Ardern resigned from being Prime Minister in New Zealand, they asked her how she would like to be remembered. And she said, as someone who always tried to be kind. But what does it mean to be kind? What are kind leaders? Do they get good results? What do we know about kind leadership? How do they act? How do they behave? There's 5 things I'd like you to remember today as you walk away. Number 1, it's hard to be kind to others unless you're kind to yourself. Number 1 rule, it starts with you. Again, I think it's interesting how we often don't take care of ourselves in many ways. I love this book and I'd highly recommend it. It's called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. It's a great gift if you want to give somebody something to read that's kind of whimsical but also very deep as well. Give them this book. It really has a lot to say about kindness and life. Interesting, the boy is struggling on his journey, but he meets up with the fox and the horse and just has all kinds of great conversations. And there's many quotes in here that I think are ones that we could remember. Here's one. Being kind to yourself is one of the greatest of kindnesses, says the mole to the boy. The horse, who always has lots to say, says, nothing beats kindness. It sits quietly beyond all things. Interesting, as they go through their journey and they talk to each other, they teach the boy, all these other characters, about kindness by showing them kindness. On this special day, it's important to think about being kind to yourself, but it's also important to think about the obstacles that you've overcome. And there's no question, as I coach CEOs and founders, I get to know their stories and their journeys. There's always things they have to overcome. Think about all the sacrifices, the work, financial, world events, emotional challenges, family challenges. So today I'd like to challenge you with this thing about yourself. When all the celebration is over and the dinners and the food, etc., step back a little bit and write down 3 kind words that describe why you were successful in getting to this state. And keep those words, post them someplace, and constantly look at them. They're probably the foundation for who you're going to be and who you are as a leader. Number 2, make curiosity your superpower. Act like Rhonda. Now, who in the heck is Rhonda? Rhonda is a person that owns the sandwich mill in San Jose. She's one of the kindest people I think I've ever met, but she practices this superpower of just curiosity. When you walk into her store, the first thing she says is, "John, how are you?" And again, you just start talking. And through the years, we've gotten to know each other. I know her story, why she founded the sandwich mill, how that works for her, her family. It's interesting. Her curiosity brings out the best in me as well. And together, we dialogue a lot about life. Curiosity does promote dialogue. And again, kind leaders show empathy. They hear other people. They hear what they're saying. And in today's world, it's interesting because conversations are too often filled with unkind words and emotions. Kind leaders are curious, and they show grace and humility under pressure. Number 3, I preach this a lot to the CEOs and founders that I coach. Don't be the star. Leaders who are kind share the stage and let others shine. I once coached a leader. I'm not coaching him now, but it was interesting to watch him in action. He was a leader who took credit for everything. It was all about me, 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 and me, even though his team had done a lot of work. He had a difficult time sharing the stage with others. As a result, people in his team became extremely frustrated. They found it really hard to stay engaged. In fact, they pulled away. They didn't want to talk. In many cases, these were individuals who actually left the company because they didn't feel they could work for this leader. Kind leaders give the opportunity to others to be at their best. They give visible and public recognition to others. So critical. Number 4, the greatest act of kindness is to give without payback. Interesting, I see this in the world in so many different ways, but one of the most memorable acts of kindness for me is a story that takes place at Pete's Coffee in Aptos, California. When visiting Pete's, it's always interesting because I notice a couple things that are always there. I notice an elderly, homeless man who's inside the cafe, and I always see his cart, his shopping cart with his tent and his sleeping bag out there. But I notice how the locals and the employees at Pete's are just interacting with him. There's always a conversation going on. I've discovered through asking more about this how they've taken him in. They've even financially supported him. And I feel like this is truly an act of kindness that is the ultimate act. I have one more challenge for you this week. This week, I challenge you to engage in an anonymous act of kindness that will make somebody's day. Do it. Write it down. Make it happen. And number 5, the final practice of kindness. Practice gratitude every day. There's no substitute for gratitude. It's hard to read any articles about kindness without reading about gratitude. I once worked with the CEO in a startup in Seattle, a very successful one, and he was struggling in our coaching relationship with his team. And his team was pointing fingers at each other. They would come into him and just pass blame, and the team was not performing well. They were not a high-performing team. He actually created an exercise which I call the Manny Gratitude Moment. Here's what he did. He asked every leader at leadership team meetings, and there were a different leader each time, to actually spend a week giving positive feedback or gathering positive feedback on members of the team. And so each week they'd come back and they would have to actually verbally say what that feedback was all about. He did this for 3 months with a different person gathering that feedback each month, and he noticed a really noticeable change. He noticed that people weren't pointing fingers, they weren't coming to him, he was not the center. The performance was much higher. They were collaborating better together. He really claims that this gratitude exercise of almost forcing people to give positive feedback was something that just made a real difference. Gratitude is critical, and kindness and gratitude go hand in hand. And so show kindness for the little things people do. And please and thank you certainly go a long way. So we've already given sort of tribute a little bit with gratitude, but I want to practice a gratitude moment right now. And it's already been done by Priya and our president as well. But I'd like us to say a special gratitude and thank you to the people around us who have made a difference in our lives. And that's friends and families. We already talked about this. But I would like them all to stand up, and I would like all of us to show our gratitude and give them a round of applause. Would family and friends stand up, and could we give them a round of applause? Family and friends, please stand up. Oh, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. We could not have done it without you. And when you have a moment today as you celebrate, tell them personally how much you appreciate what they have done in words. It makes a difference. As you embark on the next stage of your journey, remember these 5 things. Be kind to yourself. Make curiosity your superpower. Let others shine. Give without payback, and practice gratitude every day. Go out into the world and make a difference in this world and begin your journey of kindness today. Thank you very, very much. Really appreciate it.
Outstanding advice about kindness, and we need more kindness in the world.